So firstly, I just want to thank all of our ambassadors who help with this program. As you probably came in, you would have been greeted by our different ambassadors. They're here each month helping us with just getting everything going in the morning. So a big thank you to them. And then also a huge thank you to our education partners, which I did have up on the screen, for making this program possible. Without our education partners, none of us would be here. So yeah, please, when you're coming in, stop by, say hello to them. Just say thank you for them being here because they help fund the program, pay for us being here at the convention center.
It's definitely a teamwork of everybody working together, and we just want you all to feel really good when you come here because we really appreciate you coming every single month. And for those of you that haven't been here in a while, we appreciate that you like the topic and are coming in and inviting your friends and neighbors.
So for those of you who are new, my name's Brett Janelle. I'm one of the hosts here of the seminar series and one of the founders, and this is my wonderful, beautiful wife, Annette, beside me. And we founded the seminar series about 8.5 years ago. We own a real estate business and a downsizing business helping seniors who are downsizing. And we thought starting the seminar series was a great way to have community connection and get information out about all the wonderful resources we have here in the area. Can you help me out with another slide there? Thanks, Bryce. So welcome to today's topic, the truth about getting older. Anyone getting older? Just a few of us? Yeah, hopefully all of us. Much better than the alternative if we're not aging. And going from surviving to thriving. So as I mentioned, Annette and I, we have a real estate business and a business where we help retirees, seniors downsize. And one of the things we and our team continually notice is there are people who are just getting by. Does anyone know someone who's just getting by? I'm sure we all do. And then there's others that we encounter who are thriving. They're absolutely loving life. They have a great attitude, very positive. And then there's those who maybe not so much. So we were just curious to get some experts to come in and help us understand why do we have people in both spectrums. And just looking out at the audience, I see everyone here has great attitudes. Some have fantastic attitudes, the way they've dressed today. And that's all part of our outlook on life, isn't it? Yeah. So you had a couple of things you wanted to talk about.
We're also actually living longer. We got a Christmas letter recently from a couple that he's 88, she's 87. And they said, we're just starting to feel the signs of aging. But they had the picture of him next to his 102-year-old sister, and she had the biggest smile in the picture. I'm like, wow, longevity is definitely in that family. So all of us, we're seeing more longevity. We want to make sure that we are the ones that are smiling in that photo. So, and then what I wanted to talk about is all of you have a schedule for next year, the 2025 schedule. It's at your table. And we also have more of them out front. So if you have any neighbors or anybody that you would like to invite to the seminar series, the schedules are going to be, we had them at the front of the table when you first walked in, but now they're going to be at our table when you first walk out. We'll have a stack of schedules, so feel free to take them, pass them out. We will also have our schedules. They're called tear sheets, so if you go to church, coffee shop, grocery store, anywhere where they have a bulletin board and put up a tear sheet, people can just tear off the information at the bottom and be able to get all the details about the Retired Living True series. We really appreciate you helping to spread the word about this so that more community members can know about the different resources that are available here.
Wonderful. What else?
I think I'm good. Yeah.
And for those who don't know, I'm a chocoholic. And what do you all have in front of you? A little delight. So anyone who doesn't want their little delight and no one beside them would like it, feel free to bring them up to me at the end.
Yeah, we actually had to buy another bag because somebody broke into it before the event.
So maybe don't bring them up to me because I have no control, obviously. Yeah. So thank you, Annette. So I'd like to have our panelists come up and join me. Persephone, Hannah, if you can come up and join me on stage. Let me turn on your microphones for you. Welcome.
Thank you.
So maybe I could start with you, Hannah. If you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, who you are, where you're from, and why you might be here for today's topic.
Yes, I can do that. So hi everyone, my name is Hannah Linden. I am the Health and Wellness Director at the Sanford Center for Aging at UNR. And so in my role over the past about 4 years since I've been there, I've been helping older adults to help improve their health and fitness, reduce the risk of falling through evidence-based health education programs. So that's really what I do with our health and wellness programs. So I've really been able to see people start to thrive or maybe thrive again as they kind of learn and gain those tools that they need to improve their health.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. Persephone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Dr. Persephone Crittenden, and I'm a neuropsychologist, which is essentially a brain health detective. I assess patients for conditions that impact memory and thinking skills, and I help patients to optimize their brain health, their cognitive aging, as well as general well-being. And what we've learned through recent research and what I've had the pleasure of seeing in practice is that even small intentional changes can lead to significant improvements in quality of life as we age. So I'm excited today to share strategies and ideas that might help us all move from simply surviving to truly thriving.
Wonderful. Welcome. So maybe
Thank
if I
you.
could start with you, Hannah. What are some of the myths surrounding aging that we should debunk immediately before we even get started?
Yeah, I hear a lot of myths where I work and in my role. So one of the big ones that I hear, because we do some classes around physical health, physical fitness, is that I'm too old to get more fit. I'm too old to start exercising. I'm too old to build muscle, things like that. So I hear that a lot, and it's absolutely not true. So there are some challenges with aging when it comes to building muscle, but you can absolutely start building muscle at any age and get stronger at any age. So it's not too late, or maybe if you felt like you lost muscle, well, you can still gain it back. So it's just important not to be comparing yourself to others and remembering that, you are in control, but you do have to take steps to make those changes to get healthier, to get stronger. And then not so much a myth, but I hear a lot of people who say things in our classes like, well, I'm just grateful that I was able to wake up today. So I'm grateful that I woke up, I'm still kicking, I'm still here. So it's not that you shouldn't be grateful, for little things in life. We can be happy that I'm still alive, I'm still here. But it makes it seem like that's all we can hope for, right? All we can hope for is to be alive. And we can hope for a lot more than that, right? We can do a lot more, we can be engaged, we can be active, we can be healthier. We don't just have to survive every day, but we really can thrive with the right tools and the right steps and habits.
Wonderful. It's always a great start to my day when I wake up and I'm alive. So yeah, good way to start the day. Persephone.
Yes.
One more myth.
Sure. Well, one of them, of course, because, I love the brain, is that cognitive decline is inevitable as we age. Well, it's true that certain cognitive abilities, such as processing speed, may indeed change over time. Our brains' significant cognitive decline is not inevitable, nor is it part of normal aging. And our brains maintain an incredible capacity to continue to grow and develop and adapt and learn new things throughout our years.
So is that just something we have to work on?
Indeed. The fantastic news is that today we know so much more about how the brain ages, what impacts it, and the control that we essentially have over some of those aspects. So that we know now there are lifestyle things that we can incorporate, behaviors we can incorporate, which we'll talk more about today, that can preserve and enhance our cognitive abilities well into later years. And of course, that's not saying that there are not other things such as certain genetic predispositions that can contribute to certain types of cognitive decline that are outside of some of our lifestyle behavioral control. But there are so many things that we now understand that we can do to preserve our cognitive function.
And can I ask, is it kind of like our muscles? If I stop working out, stop using my muscles, I'm going to get decline there. Is that the same with my cognitive ability? If I just stop engaging, stop doing anything, I'm going to naturally decline?
Yes, absolutely. I think, Hannah, it's sort of like what you're experiencing working with people and their strength and their physical abilities. It's the use it or lose it principle. If we just, decide to stop engaging our brains and stimulating and challenging them, then certainly that muscle will decrease with time and become less active and less functional. So yes, it is very much a use it or lose it.
What other myths do we have? Actually, I see we popped some up on the screen.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hannah, do you want to take one of those?
Sure, let's see. Oh, well, you can't learn new things past a certain age. I'm sure Persephone can speak a lot to this, but we know that that's not true, and learning things well into older adulthood is really important, and you're never too old to learn how to, play the guitar or paint or whatever you want to do. And we have OLLI as part of the Stanford Center for Aging, where people are going there, older adults are learning languages and, all sorts of different skills, ukulele. So it's never too old to learn a new skill, definitely.
So who's familiar with OLLI? I should see a lot of hands.
We must have some OLLI. I know we have OLLI
fantastic.
members.
For those who aren't familiar with OLLI, can you just briefly explain what OLLI is?
Yeah, so it's the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. So it's part of the Stanford Center for Aging under our umbrella. And it's really a kind of a college for older adults where there's no grades. It's just a place where you can go and learn and engage with other maybe like-minded people. And they have everything from, Spanish classes and Italian to hiking groups. I think there's kayaking groups still. And we have flyers out directly outside these doors if you're interested in learning more and seeing some of the classes that we have. But it's just a way to stay engaged and keep learning and doing exactly what Persephone was saying, engaging your brain and, using it so you don't lose it.
Awesome. Fantastic. Hopefully they're not kayaking right now because it'd be a little chilly out there, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's a summer class.
A summer class, hopefully so. Persephone, another myth.
Yes, one that often comes up is the idea that getting older means getting lonelier, when in fact our social circles do change with age. And yet there are also lots of things that we can do to increase our social engagements. And so those may change and look different over time, but we can stay socially connected, and it's so important to do so. And many older adults report having more meaningful and deeper social connections now than ever.
Any other myths we want to cover?
Yeah, a couple others. Just the idea that as we age, declining health is inevitable, sort of like the brain health, our body health. And again, it's true that certain changes are associated with the aging process. I can feel my own bones starting to feel that. And yet again, there are many lifestyle behaviors, again, we'll talk about more today, that we can incorporate to significantly impact our physical health as we age as well. And then another last one, I suppose, is that aging is associated with losing your sense of purpose. And again, that purpose indeed may change over time and may look different, and yet we'll also talk a little bit today more about some strategies that we can incorporate if we are feeling the need to find or re-engage or connect with our sense of purpose, because that has many health benefits, including greater longevity.
Thank you. I was trying to find my binder. There it is. Does everyone have a handout? And on page 2, I think it is, it says myths on your handout. If I remember what the handout looks like. On the second page, do we see all of those myths listed? Can we circle myths just as a reminder? These are not truths, these are the myths. Just circle myths. Just want you to remember when you look at these again that they're myths, not truths. Yeah. So we don't want to get caught up in any of those. In fact, you could put a big line through all of the myths. It's like, that's all garbage. None of those apply to me. So let's talk about the key factors then that contribute to us thriving versus just surviving. Who'd like to start? Do you want to take one, Hannah?
Sure, I will take one.
And then they're on your handout as well. So we're going to talk about each of these key factors. So if you want to take notes, there's a section in the handout for that.
Hopefully this one's on the handout. But one that I feel like is really important is physical health, mobility, and it's such an important part of thriving and not just surviving. So, of course, it helps us to prevent chronic illness and manage ones that we have and prevent falls. But, I mean, anything that you really want to do to kind of maintain an active life, all the things that we like to do, requires some level of, mobility and physical health. So, to me, that's why that one's such an important one that really underlines the others is, to do things with family, to go out on outings or to go on a walk or to go on a hike or even just to cook a healthy meal requires some level of mobility and physical health, right? So without that, it's really hard to accomplish all the other things that you might want to do to keep thriving. So and really important to stay active. We're going to talk more about that, I know, today. But staying active and mobile is really important. Persephone, did you want to take another one?
Yeah, one of my favorites is sleep. So sleep is fundamental to every aspect of our health, from physical to cognitive to emotional well-being. And quality sleep, it helps memory function, emotion regulation, and it's also when your brain is able to clear out the toxins that build up over the day. And it's recommended that we aim for between 7 to 9 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. So that includes naps. And maintaining good sleep hygiene behavior, such as avoiding late afternoon caffeine, limiting screen time before bed, engaging in a consistent sleep schedule throughout the week. As also important is to avoid sleep aids that have anticholinergic properties. And these include medications like Advil PM, Tylenol PM, Unisom, Benadryl. Consistent use of these medications over time contributes to significant challenges with memory, thinking skills, and increases one's risk of developing dementia. Finally, treating any sleep disorders, such as sleep apnea, is also very, very important. Untreated sleep apnea can also contribute to symptoms that look a lot like dementia and depression and anxiety symptoms. But the great news is that treating those conditions, such as sleep apnea, can reverse those symptoms. So sleep is very, very, very important.
So if I am dealing with that, where do I go? If I haven't already gone and got help, where would my first point of contact be?
For sleep apnea or another sleep condition, primary care is always a great place to start. Say, I am feeling some of the signs and symptoms, or of course snoring is the big one. If you are a snorer and if you ever wake up gasping for breath or you wake up with frequent headaches, these are all signs that you could have untreated sleep apnea. And if that's true, talking to your primary care doctor, saying, I have some concerns, and then they can refer you for a sleep study, which now, thankfully, we can do in home instead of having to go to the sleep lab. And then if indeed sleep apnea is detected, then they will recommend an intervention such as a CPAP, which again, I know a lot of people are not fond of their CPAP machine. There are a lot of different types of these breathing assistive devices these days, which I always encourage folks to try different ones. If you didn't like the first one, try a different one and continue until maybe you find one that is sort of okay, and then work to make friends with that CPAP, because again, I cannot stress how important that is.
Thank you. Hannah, can we just go back to activity for a moment? What about for those people who are just struggling getting started, what would you suggest? Because you mentioned some simple things, just like playing with the grandkids. It's all really about movement. Everyone did a big walk today to get into this room, didn't we?
That's true.
That counts. That's movement.
Yeah, so for those who aren't super physically active right now, it can seem kind of intimidating to start getting active. So I would say, for one, you don't have to do anything that you don't like doing. So if you don't like going to the gym, and don't plan your physical activity to be something that you don't enjoy, because it's going to set yourself up to fail and you're not going to maintain it. So finding what you like to do is really important. whether it's dancing or, playing pickleball or tennis or just going on a walk or a hike. Whatever it is that you enjoy is what you should try to do. And you also don't have to start big. I know we have our physical activity, recommendations in this country. It's 150 minutes a week, but that might seem kind of daunting. And you can really start small. So maybe you're just starting with doing 5 minutes a day, or you do 5 minutes 2 different times a day. So it can really be broken down into small, more achievable little bite-sized pieces instead of trying to do it, if I can't run a marathon, what's even the point? You don't have to do things that are big. Any little amount helps.
Wonderful, thank you. So we've covered activity, physical activity, sleep. What's another one, Hannah?
I was going to talk a little bit about the socialization and social connectedness. And again, I know we'll kind of get into this a little bit more, but staying engaged with friends and family and being parts of groups is really important. Again, we'll say you could join Ollie if you're not sure where to start. But, joining groups and being a part of something bigger is really important to maintain, that social engagement, which is another one of those big factors in thriving.
Wonderful. So Stephanie.
Yeah, so I know that you're a chocoholic, but I have to mention, of course, equally as important as everything else is what we're putting in our mouths. And so the heart-healthy diets, like the Mediterranean or the Mind diet, are also brain-healthy diets. It's generally true that what's good for the heart is good for the brain. And these diets encourage lots of leafy greens and fruits and nuts and whole grains and healthy fats and lean proteins while minimizing some of the processed foods and maybe a bit of the chocolate. But they really do go a long way to preserving our heart health, our brain health, and our overall well-being. And just a note about hydration, because I think it tends to get a little bit less focus than some of the diets, which hydration, staying well hydrated, is equally as important as what we're eating, because even mild dehydration can impact our thinking skills, our energy, our joint health. So staying hydrated and eating well is super important, of course.
Do we have another one? Any other key factors? Nutrition, activity, sleep, hydration.
I think one of the other ones you have here is purpose. And again, you'll hear some overlap because we're going to be talking about all these things even more as we continue on. But finding purpose, again, Persephone already spoke to this, but it's just really important to find some reason why you're getting up every day and what you want to do. And, why am I getting dressed today? I should be having some reason why I need to get dressed today, whether that's going out for a walk or meeting with friends or volunteering. So finding some sense of purpose is one of the other factors.
So let's drill down on physical activity then. So what's the alternative? If we don't stay active, keep our body moving, what happens to us?
It doesn't work as well anymore. So it's the move it or lose it, or we like to say motion is lotion. We have lots of sayings that, why it's important to keep your body moving. So yeah, physical activity is, again, this is kind of just reiterating because I find it so important. Maybe it's because I run classes for physical activity, so this is an area that I care about. But it allows us to keep moving. It allows us to keep doing all the things that we need to do and want to do. It helps us prevent falls, so maintaining our balance and our strength and our that mobility helps us to, and flexibility helps us prevent falls. And I'm sure many of you know someone who's fallen, or you've fallen yourself, and we know that falls can cause a lot of issues, and it can wreak havoc and end up being the end of, independence and living independently. So if we want to maintain our independence, staying physically active is really important.
So that sounds like good incentive to stay active, balanced.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone here wants to continue living independently,
exactly.
As long as we can, if maybe forever. So yes, maintaining our physical strength and our mobility is so important to maintain our health throughout our life.
So any tips for us for those people in our lives that maybe aren't active enough? How can we get them more involved? And can you tell us a little bit more about the programs you just mentioned?
Yeah, so you can help get them more involved just by kind of the simple things I mentioned before, but just getting out on walks every day. Walking is one of the best exercises that we can do because it's so, accessible to everyone. So if you can get out on a walk and get moving, and you can do that, rain or shine, we can always put on a coat. And at the Sanford Center, we do offer a few different classes related to that. So we have a couple of different falls prevention specific classes. I know some people in this room have actually taken some of those. And we also have a program called Fit and Strong, which is all about improving balance and lower body strength and just overall fitness. And I think we have some alumni from that class in here too. So those are some of the classes we offer. So if you are kind of not sure where to get started, those can be a good place to see what you can start doing on your own. And even after you take that class, you'll have some tools to keep with you to continue staying active on your own.
Wonderful. Persephone, do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Stress management. So we all know that chronic stress is not good for us. It negatively impacts our physical health, our cardiovascular system, our brain health, to the point actually that chronic stress can actually change our brains and shrink the portion of our brain that is crucial in memory function. So having effective stress management techniques is vital, and that can include physical activity or talking with a friend or having other relaxation strategies or mindfulness, which is incredibly effective for stress management, emotional health, as well as attention and learning and many other things.
So I have to interrupt you. What the heck is this mindfulness we keep hearing about? Is everyone familiar, or is it just me? Has everyone got their head wrapped around mindfulness? Anyone who doesn't know? A few of us? Good. Well, for those of us who aren't in...
Looks like most of you are well aware. That's great. So imagine you're sitting in your favorite chair, drinking your morning coffee or tea, and you might also be reading the news or watching a program or completing a crossword puzzle or thinking about your to-do list. And you finish the coffee without ever really even giving it any thought or even really tasting it. That is how many of us go through our days, on autopilot. And mindfulness is simply the opposite of autopilot. It's engaging our senses to pay attention to what we're doing in a moment, to pay attention to our experience in a moment. And non-judgmentally, of course. And it's important because the science is strong. And we have seen now that mindfulness actually, again, changes the brain, but this time in a positive way, unlike the chronic stress. So mindfulness changes our brain in ways that improve attention, that foster emotional resilience, that reduce stress, and can even help manage physical pain and discomfort. And there are lots of different ways to do mindfulness, and there's no wrong way to do mindfulness. And it can be just engaging your senses and your attention to any daily activity, like drinking your coffee, doing the dishes, brushing your teeth. One really great way to get started is just by taking a minute or two to pay attention to our breath and really just noticing what that breathing is like, noticing how fast or slow we're breathing, noticing the rise and fall of our chest or our stomach, and the feeling of the air that's coming into our nose and out through our mouth, and really just paying attention to that. Again, in a non-judgmental way, not trying to change it, but just noticing it. And when your mind wanders, which it will, just noticing that as well and gently returning your attention to your breathing. The concept is simple, but it actually can be quite challenging because our brains tend to be like monkeys jumping from branch to branch, and trying to slow that process can take practice, which is why mindfulness is called a practice. But there are also really great ways to get help with this process, like apps or YouTube videos available for free that can help you walk through a mini mindfulness moment is what I like to start with. Just a minute or two a day, and it really can, that minute or two a day can really have significant benefits.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about, Hannah, maybe sense of purpose. So why is that so important to us in terms of thriving?
Yeah, and excuse me, I think that a sense of purpose is something that, from the people I talk to in a lot of our workshops, is something we don't talk about a lot, and it can be overlooked because when people retire, they think, I'm going to have so much fun, I'm just going to have nothing I have to do, it's going to be great, and then a little while later, maybe some people in this room have experienced this, you realize, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, and you lose that sense of purpose. And it can really impact, your mental health and just, your motivation to get going and doing things. So we don't always realize how difficult that's going to be. But having good, social connectedness and purpose and engagement in our lives is really, it's connected to our physical health. It's connected to our quality of life. And people who are more socially connected live happier and longer lives. So it's not just, a fun thing to be able to stay and maintain a sense of purpose, but it's really important for our well-being too. And just like I already kind of mentioned, there's lots of different ways that you can maintain a sense of purpose. Just being physically active is one way that you can maintain a purpose. If you are doing enjoyable physical activity, then getting up and knowing I'm going on a hike today can bring you a great sense of purpose. Or maybe, again, it's learning new things or taking a class or going out with friends or family and going to lunch. And another really great way is volunteering. So volunteering is a really important way to give back. So many organizations need volunteers, and it gives you an immense sense of purpose knowing that you're helping others, you're providing something that people need. And I'll do a shout out that at the Sanford Center, we have a number of programs that are volunteer-based, as do most nonprofit organizations. So there's so many places that you can go if you want to volunteer, if you want to be paired with another senior who's isolated and lonely, you can help that person and give them support. There's lots of different opportunities out there, but that helps them and it helps you. So it's really a win-win.
Persephone, anything you'd like to add regarding sense of purpose? And how do we know if we're missing it? Can we just go along and not realize we've kind of lost purpose, or are we going to know? Are we going to be mindful that we...
It's a good question, and I think that you can feel, sort of to Hannah's point earlier, this idea of, am I just grateful because I got out of bed today? And while it's true, that is something to be grateful for, I'm grateful for it every day, is there anything beyond that? Is there something that you're looking forward to? Is there something that feels fulfilling and meaningful to you? And perhaps if there isn't, then that might be an indication that it might be good to seek some activities that might contribute to that sense of purpose and or belonging and meaning in your lives. And I think really it's aligning your daily activities with things that are important to you and that are aligned with your values. And for some of us, that might mean taking a moment to reflect on what our values are at this time, because those can change over the years as well. But really, I think that if there's an alignment between your activities and your interests and your values, that can really contribute to that sense of purpose and meaning. And for some, that might even just be engaging more with nature or getting involved in advocacy for a cause or an organization that's important to you. Because everyone in this room has so much of value to add to any of these activities that you're an incredible resource to all of us, and we don't want any of that to be lost.
So let's change gears a little bit and talk about maybe emotional well-being, how important that is to us in the aging process, and what does that really mean, emotional and mental well-being?
Emotional well-being is mental health. Emotional well-being is equally as important, of course, as cognitive health and physical health throughout the aging process. And the great news is that many of the factors that impact our mental and emotional health are the same as those that we're talking about that impact our health and well-being overall. And those include, of course, physical activity and social engagement and good sleep and practicing mindfulness or some other practice that's important to you, yoga, Tai Chi, walking, any of those things. So those factors all contribute to improved mental health and emotional well-being. And it's also important to note that there are times when seeking professional support in the form of counseling or psychotherapy or even mental health medications is also an important piece to tending to our emotional well-being, and also being proactive about grief and loss. Because it's natural that as we age, we will encounter more losses, be that of loved ones or roles or physical capabilities. And seeking support in the form of support groups or counseling can really help to navigate those transitions when needed.
Can you just reiterate that? So it's probably obvious to us the loss of a loved one, but what were the other losses you just mentioned?
Roles. So, for example, when we retire, that's a significant role change in our lives. Or when our children or grandchildren are no longer as present as they once were, our roles are changing. Or when we lose again our friend, all of these losses are associated with changes in our role, in our function in day to day. And then the physical capabilities, the loss of physical capabilities, as we maybe are losing some of our mobility or not engaged as much in some of the activities of physical activity, and that change in physical capability or that loss can be just as significant, of course, as the loss of a loved one.
So that could in turn lead to depression, and we can't really understand why. Not
Yes.
realizing it's that role, or I'm no longer volunteering for that organization or
Yes.
doing that activity at, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very much so.
So what else do we need to know regarding mental health and emotional well-being?
Well, I think sometimes, there's some overlap of the idea of mental health, and mental well-being, and cognitive well-being. And so, I've just been speaking to this idea of how to care for our emotional selves and our emotional experiences. But I also just want to take a moment to talk about the pillars of cognitive well-being or mental well-being insofar as our brain function and our cognitive function. And again, the overlap of all of these things makes it so fantastic, because instead of incorporating 10 new things, we can just make some small changes or incorporations into our behaviors that will impact all of these areas we're talking about. So those pillars of the optimal brain aging and mental health in that way are the physical activity and the sleep and the making sure that we're eating heart healthy and brain healthy foods, the mental stimulation, that lifelong learning and engagement, the social connectedness, the stress management, and then a couple that we have not yet talked about is avoiding harmful substances such as smoking. And that's really a big one. And then other substances such as alcohol, using in moderation if desired to use at all. So really just paying attention to the substances as well. And of course, getting our regular medical checkups and making sure that we're managing any chronic conditions such as high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, because of course everyone knows that those things have detrimental impacts over time as well.
Are we sometimes guilty, though, of overlooking those and prolonging going and seeing our primary care physician? And no?
No, never, right? No, why would anyone do that? It can be really easy to get caught up in our day-to-day activities and put off those types of appointments or checkups, or it can just be daunting to think about going to have them. And so, yes, we can. I am absolutely guilty of knowing that I need to make that appointment and just not. But so I encourage people to do as I suggest, not as I do.
So we're not helping ourselves thrive just by putting it off.
Absolutely,
Whether
yeah.
it's, exercise, diet, going to the doctor because of a change.
Questions being held at the end.
We're going to hold off questions until about 11 o'clock. So if you could just write down your question, we'll come back to it if that's okay.
Oh, questions at the end.
Questions at the end, yeah.
And can I add something too, Brett?
Well, please.
Just talking about the mental health, I think it's important to mention that mental health and like our physical, like chronic health conditions are connected. So when we're going through like a mental health crisis or having some type of mental health issue, it seeps into our physical health and can worsen chronic conditions and make them harder to manage. But then also on the flip side, if you live with a chronic condition, you're more likely to suffer from like a behavioral health condition also. So it's kind of a vicious cycle that it's just important to be aware of, that you might be more susceptible to mental health issues when you live with a chronic health condition. And again, like I said, it affects that as well, their management of it. So it's something that we can still do things about, but it goes back to, it's important to see your primary care provider and to stay on top of those things and to get help with those things when you need them.
So just on that, with primary care, I know we all have different experiences, but usually, in my experience, limited, they don't give you a whole lot of time. You've got like 15 minutes. What are the 2 things we're going to talk about today? Well, if it's 5, we're going to have to make another appointment or whatever the case may be. So is that our only avenue, going to our primary care? Is that the best avenue? Any suggestions from either of you? Or Brett should just move on to the next question.
Well, I mean, I suppose it depends on for which concern you're wanting to address, of course, because as Hannah's been highlighting at the Sanford Center, for example, there's a lot of wonderful resources to address other types of concerns than something like, chronic health conditions like diabetes or high blood pressure. But certainly, so there are resources within the community to go and seek support, even coming to someone like me, where I have the luxury of time with patients, which is incredible, and I value that, and I know that's not the case for most providers. But yes, being able to seek out the community resources to talk about what your concerns are, think about, how do I implement any of things, or where do I start? Certainly. And just about the primary care, because they do have such limited time, make sure that you bring a list. Bring a list of your concerns and tell them straight away, these are the things I want to cover today, to make sure that they're going to be on their radar.
That avoids the doctor chit-chat part. It's like, here's what I want to cover. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really good advice.
And helps us to remember those things that we want to cover, because
Right.
I leave and go, oh, I forgot to talk about that.
Yep, guilty of that. So how can you help people then? So what do people in the community come to you for specifically, so the audience can kind of work out, well, how can Persephone help me?
Sure. So typically people come to me because they are having concerns with memory function and thinking, I'm just not remembering things the way I used to, or my family is now concerned, saying that I keep misplacing things or that I'm getting confused. And so then we will do a comprehensive evaluation that lasts for many, many hours, where I talk with individuals in detail and their family members, and then do some testing to see how different areas of the brain are working, which then helps to identify any potential conditions that might be impacting brain function. And then, of course, we take those results and turn them into personalized recommendations for how to improve on any areas of difficulty, to really capitalize on the areas of strength, and again, to optimize brain health and cognitive aging and general well-being.
Fantastic. And then Hannah, so what programs there are at Sanford that would help our audience that we may not have touched on?
Yeah, I'm talking about how primary care providers have a very short period of time with you. We do have what's called our Sanford assessment, which is a comprehensive assessment, interdisciplinary team that is it an hour, Crystal? 2 hours? 2 hours. So a 2-hour-long assessment with a social worker and a geriatric pharmacist. So it's really intensive. So it kind of sounds like, the same luxury where it doesn't go through insurance. So there's none of those rules. And they get to spend as much time with you as they need talking about your social needs, medical needs, and they make recommendations for you, and they can share that back with your primary care provider. So it's not primary care, but it's a way you can kind of get started and get connected to other resources that you might need in the community.
And for those who aren't familiar, what is the Sanford Center for Aging?
Okay. Sanford Center for Aging. So we are an aging services organization. We're part of the UNR School of Medicine. And so we just offer a lot of different programs and services, primarily for older adults, volunteer programs, our assessment. We have a medication therapy management program, and I have our wellness programs that I oversee, and a few other programs in there as well. So we are just out there working to help older adults improve and their quality of life and their well-being. And we are really pro-aging. So that's, we say we're the Sanford Center for Aging because I think Brett made a joke earlier that, I hope that we're aging because the alternative is not so good. So we aren't, we don't like the stigma around aging. We're really trying to break those stigmas and show that everyone can live a healthy life and live a happy, meaningful life as we get older.
Fantastic, thank you. Did anyone take notes when Persephone was talking about substances to avoid? Did we get those all down? I think there was alcohol, smoking. I don't recall her saying chocolate. Am I correct? Chocolate wasn't on there? Yeah. No chocolate, good. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't mentioned.
Depends on the kind, maybe.
Depends on the kind, okay. But if I take my wife for a walk to the store that sells chocolate, then it cancels itself out, does it? Oh, good.
All right, that's a good balance. That's a good balance.
So let's talk about, we touched on the importance of social connections. Why is that so important? Because I know we definitely have a lot of people in our community that are lonely. And I guess if we could also address loneliness versus being alone, because they're perhaps two different things. So let's start first, Hannah, importance of social connections. Why is that so important? And I know most people here are connected, but we have lots of people in the community who aren't.
Yeah, we're all connected. Right now, you're out and about, you're doing something. But yeah, social connectedness is really linked to our health. So people who are not socially connected and more isolated are at risk for a number of things like more chronic conditions, more likely to fall, more likely to be depressed, other mental health concerns, and actually premature death. So being socially isolated has an impact on our health in many different ways. So that I would say that's probably the biggest reason why social connectedness is so important, along with just the fact that it makes our lives better to be socially connected and to be doing things with other people. Of course, we all know that, and I'm sure that's part of the reason that you all are here today. Just keeping in mind how really linked it is. I mean, we're looking more and more into that link between social isolation and all these other different health concerns. And when we see someone who's socially isolated, we know they're at higher risk for, things like dementia and falls. And so it's very connected, and it's becoming, very well researched as well.
Can you think of any examples for our audience here, a change that could occur where we're not socially connected as much as we were and to our detriment? What sort of things happen in life that would cause that?
Yeah, I mean, well, for one, the death of a spouse, or you're changing your living arrangements. So maybe you were living with someone else, now you're living alone, or just a change in social circles. I mean, when you have maybe a close friend, so it might just be a spouse, but a close friend pass away, maybe the person that you used to confide in, and now you don't really feel like you have someone that you can talk to about things. So I think, there's a number of different things that can happen that would change that.
Thank you, just so we can be aware of those. Yeah. Persephone.
Just to add on to what Hannah is saying about the potential detriments of social isolation and that really chronic loneliness, is that in recent years there has been more attention paid to this, and it's been said by I don't remember which Surgeon General, that loneliness is a public health epidemic, and that the health implications of chronic loneliness are comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
Wow.
And remember, I told you to stay away from the cigarettes. So this is equally as important to just be mindful of. and to really think about, am I feeling lonely or am I just alone?
And what's the difference?
Um,
Am I not lonely if I'm alone?
No, not necessarily. No, being alone is a physical state of not being in the presence of others. And that can be an intentional choice, which can be modified perhaps when desired. And being alone can feel a neutral state, can feel refreshing or feel uncomfortable, depending upon the context. Whereas being loneliness is an emotional experience of disconnection and an emotional experience of not feeling like I am able to connect with others and that my interactions are lacking depth and meaning, and feeling that there is just this persistent unmet need for social connection. And yes, so and that can be true even if you're surrounded by others. So you can be lonely even in a room full of people if you are having that persistent sense of disconnection.
How can we overcome that then? If we're here with all of our wonderful friends, but we're feeling lonely, what are some steps to change that state?
First of all, just taking note of it. So that's why I think thinking about these distinctions, am I alone or am I lonely? And really thinking about how the experience feels for you. And then if you find that I am feeling lonely, of course, connecting with others in some meaningful way. So again, finding the activities that bring you joy and meaning. So that could be, volunteering or mentoring or connecting with a faith-based organization, or reaching out and connecting or reconnecting with a friend or a family member that you've not spoken to for years. And so sort of just purposefully finding those engagements and activities that will bring you joy. Joy is a key ingredient to all of this, because if we're not enjoying something, why would we continue doing it? And feel that sense of meaning.
So I heard some key words there. It sounds like we need to be purposeful about if we're feeling lonely. It's up to us to do something about it versus waiting for external things to put us in a better place. I think you used purposeful, reaching out. You had several words there. Yeah,
and even just letting someone know, I'm feeling a bit lonely. And so sort of like that can be the first step. But yes, being proactive. And it might also include seeking, again, professional support. So going to counseling or to therapy and talking about this feeling and how might I address that. Because it can be an uncertain place to start. Like, how do I get over this? So seeking some support along that journey can also be helpful.
So again, where do we go as far as counseling, therapy? What's the first step if we do want help? Where would you suggest? Is it our primary care physician again? Is that the starting point?
I think the primary care physician is always a great place to start with any of these concerns, because they do tend to have resources to be able to refer you to support services. I think also at the Sanford Center, however, you all, I believe, have some resources for these types of connections and engagements as well, as far as seeking that support.
Yeah. If you joined one of our classes or did something like our assessment, we can always, make recommendations or give kind of resource lists that can connect you to the right places. And I'll just say that people have come to some of our classes that are maybe meant for diabetes management or falls prevention. And sometimes I can tell that that's kind of their way of, well, maybe they do need it for that reason, but they also are there for social engagement and for connections. And they might leave with a friend. We've seen participants who make friends and end up staying friends or end up being walking buddies, or you'll see them exchanging information about, their church or some type of other organization they're involved with. A lot of times I see them telling other people about Ollie. So they become friends and they end up making connections, and they help get plugged into other resources by just starting with one. So you start somewhere and you make connections and you kind of grows from there.
Wonderful. Speaking of resources, Bryce, could you help me with my clicker because it's not advancing? Fantastic. I don't know if you can both see the slide that the audience can see, but you both provided me with some resources that are in the handout. Was there anything you wanted to touch on or mention about those?
For the ones that I had sent over, just because I know I mentioned building muscles and you can build muscle as you age, so I just included one good source that kind of talks through that if you're interested in how that works. It's a pretty good article about it. And then just forming healthy habits and how you can do that, because all the things we talk about, if that's something that you're not doing right now, requires some sort of habit building and behavior change. So it's kind of just a good place to start.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, and the tip sheets there on brain health and active minds and cognitive stimulation are really just reminders of all of the things that we've been talking about in sort of bite-sized little ways to sort of pop on the fridge or put in your wallet and remind yourself to think about, which one of these sounds interesting, or which one of these might I incorporate a little bit more. But so, yeah, it's sort of just a nice go-to for all of the areas we've been covering.
Fantastic. Yeah, and they're on the bottom of the last page of the handout. So before we go to audience questions, Hannah, do you have any last thoughts that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I'd hope that people here leave, feeling empowered to do some of the things that we're talking about. And it's not just, it might just seem a little bit overwhelming that, there's so many different areas of things that I need to think about if I want to thrive. And then thinking about, the resource on healthy habits. Just a way to think about that and to start, I would say, is instead of being overwhelmed by that is, and I know I mentioned this before a little bit, but breaking it down into smaller pieces. And if you've taken any of our workshops, you've probably heard about action plans, but not feeling like you have to take on everything at once. But the idea of an action plan is like a really small, very doable step that you can take maybe over the next week, where you are just saying, okay, this next week I'm going to, remove one chocolate bar a day from my diet. You can still have some. It's everything in moderation. Or I'm going to go on a 5-minute walk this week. And then maybe you feel really successful. I did it. I did the thing I said I was going to do. Now next week, I'm going to go on a 15-minute walk. The next week, I'm going to go on 2 walks. So making an action plan, that's something you can do, not something that you're going to say you're going to do, but then you can't actually do it because that's going to bring you, again, kind of towards failure there. So something small and doable, and then build on it each week. And then you can add in a lot of these different components we've talked about and try to build action plans around them and not feel like there's just so much I have to do, this is overwhelming. But making small changes adds up to a lot. It's not like you have to start with everything at once.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hannah. Did anyone notice towards the bottom of the handout there is one last question with a blank? The one action I'm going to take because of today's seminar is...
It's like an action plan.
Yeah, just one action. Hannah mentioned a whole lot of them.
You start with one. Start with one.
Yeah, and encourage everyone to write down one. And then we can share during question and answer your one action, so you're going to be held accountable. Does anyone like that idea?
I
No,
do.
not a lot of nods.
I like it.
You like that? Yeah. Actually, I'll ask if anyone wants to share during Q&A. But Stephanie, you're passing... What would you like to pass on to the audience before we go to questions?
I echo Hannah's sentiment that this likely can feel like a lot, and trying to think about, oh my gosh, I have to make all these changes. But really, thriving is not about following a strict regimen, but about creating a life that energizes and fulfills you. And it's definitely not about perfection, but about making those small, intentional choices, which could be prioritizing better sleep or connecting to a friend or savoring that morning coffee. And over time, these small behaviors will compound to create more, even richer and more vibrant lives.
Wonderful. Thank you. So if you have a question of our panelists, just raise your hand. Vic is going to take the left side of the room, and please introduce yourself, Vic.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Vic Denegris. I'm with Amada Senior Care here in Reno. We provide non-medical in-home caregiver services for those who choose to age safely in place at home. Also, we do help out with, if you do have a long-term care insurance policy, I do policy assessments as well as part of my service. And if you have any questions on those policies that you already have, we do not sell insurance, but any policies that you already have, you're welcome to come and chat with me out here about that as well. Yeah. Pass it on to Debbie over here.
Thank you.
Hi,
Vic?
I'm Debbie Wood. I'm with Mason McDuffie Mortgage. I provide all sorts of residential mortgage loans, including reverse mortgages.
Thank you, Debbie. So Debbie's going to take the left side of the room. So if you have a question on this side, please raise your hand. And let's start just here, the right side of the room. If you could raise your hand so Vic can come to you. So let's take this question here.
I have a couple of health challenges, and people are recommending what vitamins
Could you just
I
hold the
should
microphone
take
just a little closer?
for each one.
Thank you.
And I need to find a registered dietitian who can help me put these recommendations together so that I'm not taking more than I need of one thing and the other. And I have had a very hard time finding a registered dietitian in Reno. Do you know of any? I found one in Truckee, but no one in Reno.
I can't really make a recommendation on a registered dietitian. I can bring in and say that our geriatric pharmacist looks at supplements and can tell you whether that's going to do anything for you or if you're just going to pee it out and you're going to waste your money. So she's a really good resource. So you're not wasting money, because I think there's a lot about supplements that they can actually end up interacting with your other medications. It can kind of be a slippery slope. So you might want to talk to someone like a pharmacist, whether it's her or someone else, to see how that might interact, and that might be maybe more, beneficial than a dietitian, because if you are taking other medications, that is. But no, I can't really make a recommendation for a specific clinician, although I'm sure someone in this room can, maybe after our session.
So the lady down the back at the end in the red sweater has someone to recommend if you'd like to connect after the seminar. So thank you if you two want to connect. Awesome. On this side?
Hi, I just want to say that I have been to the Sanford Medical Center, and it's a wonderful program. I went to the medication management evaluation, and that was very worthwhile. But my question is, it's hard to find.
Hard to find?
If you just go in the lobby, there's lots of valuable information, but maybe you could just tell people who've never been there how to get there.
How to physically find the location?
Well, if you reach out to us to schedule something like medication therapy management or our assessment, both of which we do at our office, because our other wellness programs are generally not at the university. We do them in other locations. But it can be hard to find. We actually have a new map that's the university put together where it makes it really easy to find the building. And so we can always send that to you or give you really good, solid directions. If you do make an appointment or want to come by just to grab some resources or something in our lobby, I would grab one of our flyers and give us a call to make sure that you know where you're going. But we're on the UNR campus. We're at the very, very north end of campus, but it's complicated, and the building is a really big building. If you go to the wrong side, you're going to be in a maze for an hour. Sounds like that's what happened to you. So yes, but we can give you better directions if you need to come by for anything. Reach out to us first so that you don't get lost, please. Thank you.
That campus has grown. Annette graduated from UNR, and we went back there, and she goes, wow, where do all these buildings come from? It's changed considerably over the years. I won't say over how many years, because I'll get in trouble. Where are we at? This Dick.
Yes, I wrote my question down. How do you assess whether or not your sleep is good? You talked about quality sleep. How do I know?
First question is, do you feel well rested? So thinking about how many hours of sleep are you getting, and do you feel well rested, and are you feeling fatigued throughout the day or feeling, pretty sustained energy throughout the day? And, again, are you waking up with headaches or particularly dry mouth? Those might be indications of sleep apnea. But really, yeah, the first questions always just have to do with the amount of sleep that you're getting. Are you restless during the night, or do you wake frequently during the night? If you do wake, how long does it take to get back to sleep? Are you waking earlier than you would like or need to in the morning? And so thinking about the hours, the quality, as well as the feeling of being well rested.
Thank you. Can I ask a question? What does well rested mean? What does that even look like?
Yeah.
How do I know if I'm well rested? I woke up. I'm not.
That seems like a bad sign.
So,
Yeah. Excuse me. Are you tired? Are you tired throughout the day? Do you wake up like sort of groggy and that doesn't really alleviate much despite the morning coffee? Like, are you kind of just slogging through the day, or do you wake up feeling refreshed and like I've got the energy to make it through this day?
so ready to go. Ready to take on the day. Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
I don't know if I'd go that far because I
Okay.
certainly don't wake up ready to go, but I get there.
Okay, thank you. Robert.
Yes. I have a dog that is a big part of our family, and I find that he helps me and my wife get through our days accomplishing a whole lot of these things that we've been talking about. And yet I see or hear you didn't talk about pets. How important is that as we grow older? And what are the disadvantages?
I love that question, and I actually had in my notes a bit about the pets and how important they can be. Because indeed, just like you said, they can help to incorporate a lot of these things we're talking about. The physical activity, the social connectedness, the sense of purpose and caring for a living being, and that connection that you feel with the pet can also combat loneliness. So indeed, there are a lot of benefits. I think potential obstacles could be that, if an individual is having a hard time caring for the pet due to difficulties with mobility or difficulties with, again, not feeling well rested, or cognitive changes that are, contributing to, oops, I forgot to feed the dog. Those sorts of things, then it could be more of a question mark. Is this a really great idea? But overall, I think that the benefits of having a pet are fantastic. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Thank you. Over here, Debbie.
Oh, it's on. I was so interested in this word mindfulness. It seems to float around without much definition. And I wonder if somebody like Plato and
Joe,
Aristotle,
hold a little closer, please.
Plato and Aristotle and Aquinas and some of those old boys were mindful, would you say?
That's such an interesting question. I love that. It's a really great question. I wonder, because I think that today's world, we have so many things coming at us constantly, and so many short snippets of, this information and that information, and look at this and look at that, and did you do this and think about that. And so it really detracts from our ability to pay attention to our experience in a moment and really even recognize what we're feeling, what we're experiencing. So perhaps in some of those previous times, maybe there were a few less distractions, a few less things being constantly put in our face, or maybe not, but maybe that could have helped to be more mindful in those times. But it's a great question. Do either of you have thoughts?
I mean, I would imagine based on all the work that they did, they must have been somewhat mindful. But I agree. I think that we're less mindful today because of all the things we have going on and all the constant things we have to do and then places to go. And I mean, we always have a task list. And I think, long ago, everyone was probably a little bit more mindful. And when they drank their coffee, they probably enjoyed it and weren't thinking about everything that they had to do. So, yeah, I imagine that everyone was more mindful, so they probably are included in that. But I do like that question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for each of you, if I may. Hannah, you mentioned there's no insurance for your services. Is there a charge? And Persephone, you didn't mention meditation as far as mindfulness. Is that good also? And also, where did you get your name?
That's 3 questions. Let's start with the first one, Hannah. No
Yes.
insurance, service at Sanford.
Yep.
What does that look like for any of
Yes,
the programs?
they're all free. So Ollie is our only program that does have a fee associated with it, although there is a no questions asked scholarship. So even that can be a free service if you need that. But yeah, our assessment, our programs, they don't take insurance and they're all free. We have grant funding, so they're all free for participants.
And do you know what the fee is for Ollie if we did want to join for a year, approximately?
Oh, Crystal walked out of the room. She would know. I want to say it's 80.
Like $80?
85?
85?
Okay, I asked the audience. 85, and there's different. I think there's a couple different plans now. There's like different ways, but yeah, I think it's 85 for a year.
But if it's a financial hardship, there's scholarships to take care of.
Yes, and again, you don't have to provide any information. You just tell us I can't do it, and we can provide that.
Persephone.
Yeah, meditation.
Mindfulness?
Yes, meditation. So mindfulness, of course, is a type of meditation, and there are lots of other types as well. And I didn't specifically get into those because, well, it's not everyone's cup of tea, and it's a whole different topic that we could spend an hour on. But indeed, the practice of mindfulness in and of itself is a meditative practice, and meditation in general can have the same impacts on your brain as far as creating new neural networks and improving emotional resilience and attention and et cetera. So indeed, lots of types of meditation are incredibly helpful. And my name, my mother was a big fan of Greek mythology, and it was a huge family debate, and they all told her, no, you cannot do that to her. And she said, yes, I am.
It's a beautiful name. I love it.
Thank you.
Debbie, do you have someone over there with a question?
I have 2 questions. The first one, the 2-hour assessment that you provide and it's free, can that be done via Zoom for like rural communities? And also, what does your medication management program entail?
Oh, she's putting me on the spot for the programs that aren't mine. I do believe, yes, that they can do the assessment virtually. We can confirm because Crystal, she just walked in. Crystal, can our assessment be virtual, like Zoom or over the phone or? Okay, either, yes. So all those things, so it's accessible for the whole state. And medication therapy management. So we have a board-certified geriatric pharmacist, Dr. Leslie Baker, and she will ask you questions about your health in general and then ask you for either over the phone all your medications on a list, or if you come in, just bring them all in with you. And she'll just look through everything and talk to you about possible interactions. She'll also send you a report later with anything that she thinks, oh, you probably don't need to be taking this supplement, or you might want to talk to your doctor about this prescription. So she doesn't take you off of anything. She's not your doctor, but she will make recommendations for you. So that's a really short version because I don't know everything that she does, but she's very in-depth, and she's really great. Some people in here have met with her.
And we've only heard amazing things about Dr. Baker. She's actually been on 2 panels in the past, quite a while ago. Has anyone been here when Dr. Baker was on here? Yeah, wasn't she great? She was amazing, yeah. So couldn't speak highly enough of her.
I have a question for Hannah. You were mentioning early on something about a class and that you have other classes. How do we find out about all of those opportunities?
Yes, we have lots of classes. Luckily, we do have flyers for them at our table, which is right outside the door, or on our website. We'll tell you the website when you come to our table, so I don't mess it up for you. It's not very long, but I can't seem to remember it. Or you can give us a call. So you can find out about those ways, but I can tell you that we have 2 different falls prevention classes. We have a Fit and Strong class. We have diabetes self-management, diabetes prevention, and a class called Powerful Tools for Caregivers for anyone who's caring for an adult loved one. So those are our wellness classes. Again, they're all free and grant funded. But we love to give you a whole list of them and get our information so we'll have them coming up all in the spring. So we have nothing coming up, right this moment. But our website's on that paper that you have in front of you.
It's on the handout,
It's on the handout. Wow. So you have that too. So you can go online, you can call us, you can email us, whatever you'd like to do, and then we can tell you what classes we have in the spring and get you signed up.
I'd recommend picking up their information on the way out. Did anyone write down one action? I'm just curious. Did anyone write down an action that they'd be willing to share? Would you be willing to share it? Debbie, can we get a mic? This lady first, and then no, stay where you are, Debbie. No, you stay where you are. Oh no, run over there, Debbie. No, stay where you are. No, I'm just kidding. Stay where you are, and then we'll come over to that lady over there. Stay where you are. Yes. We'll take the question.
Who is? Okay.
Did anyone else put down an action? Willing to share? Oh, okay, you have the microphone, so even better. So question first, and then you can share. Thank you.
So I didn't hear, ask the question first?
Yeah, yes, please. And just hold it nice and close.
Okay. First one is, the question is finding a primary care doctor. Okay. I have been to my health plan, which I don't even remember what it is, but it's through Medicare. I was given a list. I've been 4 times talked to them. Every time I've talked to the practice, they're not taking new people. And you're rolling your eyes. It's turned into a major problem. I've been without a doctor for a year, and I've been trying. I was injured off my horse and trying to get in. I still can't. He says go to emergency. I need a doctor. Thank you very much. I need one of my own. Mine quit the practice and went to private practice because he didn't want to deal with the insurance companies anymore. Everybody's nodding. They're all nodding. So I want to know how to find one good for my age and good for someone that's seriously active. I ride horses still. And I went to one, and she says, oh, well, honey, maybe it's time you slow down. No. She's cringing, but you understand. So that is my question.
Do we have any suggestions, or do we need to find another resource? Yeah. Might be beyond the scope of...
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I mean, maybe going to emergency, though, is a place to start as far as them being able to refer you to someone who is taking new patients, because I know that is a common problem, but
so
yeah,
like
I'm
going
not
to
sure.
urgent care? Yeah. Urgent care?
And the problem is, a lot of them don't take Medicare.
Right. No.
And that is also the question and the problem.
Yes.
My thing is, I've got to find a doctor.
So you have your action item, finding a doctor.
Continuing.
And one that's good for my age and good for someone that's active. I mean, this comment about, well, maybe it's time I'm sorry. I was at a clinic to train my horse to cut cows. And a lady...
I'm going to just move on because I see other hands, if that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah, just because we've got to run out of time. But thank you for sharing. We'll see if we can find a resource that could help you. Over here.
So this is Persephone. I'm going to say it because it's a beautiful name. But
thank you.
You were talking about you were talking about in your practice that you do evaluations, and so how extensive do you do, like as an example for dementia and Alzheimer's? How far do you go into that, or do you then refer over to other physicians for that, or agencies?
No, I'm the one that those other physicians and agencies are referring to for that. So yeah, I am a diagnostician of sorts. And so yeah, so you might see your neurologist or your primary care and they are unsure of exactly what's going on. So they'll send to me and we'll go through the full evaluation to determine a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or anything else that might be happening, and then figure out targeted recommendations for intervention and support. I do not. No, sadly.
The question was, does Stephanie take insurance?
Right.
The answer was no.
No.
That's why you said you have lots of time.
Exactly. That's why I have the luxury of time. But yes, I do take other things like care credit or make payment plans with folks or provide alternative strategies to get the coverage.
And then we had someone who was going to quickly share their one action, because I'd like to hear one action. And then we have another question. And maybe you could help Vic with Mike over here. We have a couple of hands, if there's no more hands on this side.
My one action, because I'm so shy and retiring, to download and read the brain health chart.
Great action. Thank you for sharing that.
That is a
Download
great
and
action
read
plan.
the brain health chart. Very good.
I won't give all the details, but when my family doctor left one of the large hospitals here in Reno, she moved over to Hope's Clinic, and they were delighted to have a patient with good insurance.
So Hope's Clinic, thank you for sharing that. Hope's Clinic. Where's our microphone? Just here, thank you.
I have a comment about if anybody that has sleep apnea. You're not stuck with one of the CPAP machines. There are dental appliances that work. There's only one provider that I know of in Reno that takes Medicare for them. It helps defray the cost a bit, and they're expensive, but you don't have to mess with all that machine and so on.
Thank you for sharing. Yes.
Oh, speaking of stress, there seems to be a giant elephant in the room, and that is that our new administration is saying they're going to change and cut the health care that we are used to, and we've seen other things that we did not believe were going to happen. Are there any groups forming to deal with this? Because there seems to be so much look away, it's all going to be fine, don't worry about it, as things are being cut and cut and cut. Is there anything that we can do to address this?
I'm not sure if we are the right people to be asking.
That's outside of a little outside my realm of knowledge, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry we don't have an answer, but we hear you.
Same, but maybe that's where the advocacy can be helpful too, though, if you're feeling, that there's a way
sense of
to
purpose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, to connect in.
Hi, I've got a comment. For any of the folks in here who are veterans, when we're talking about fitness, the VA here has a program called Fit But Not Forgotten, and your primary care physician can refer you to it. And it's a partnership between the VA and the city, where you can go to Evelyn Mount or now to the new Moana Springs Pool program, and you have access to all their programs for free. And the VA has an exercise physiologist that they can refer you to who will walk you through, and they'll figure out whether you need chair yoga or all the way up through. They have a full weight program. They have spinning classes. And so for the whole range of from just getting started to being very fit, they have programs, and it's free to veterans. But you have to get a referral from your primary care doc at the VA.
No, thank you so much for sharing that.
That's fantastic, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
No, I'm not service connected, and I get it. My wife is service connected, she gets it. But
are there any long-term implications from having COVID on our cognition?
Oh, great question.
From having COVID, is that what you said?
Yeah, long-term effects, cognitive effects.
There can be, the post-COVID sequelae, the long COVID certainly can impact cognition. What I've seen, I was doing quite a bit of this work before in Boston, and what I've seen over time is that those do tend to improve. So it's not necessarily permanent change if indeed there has been some change in cognition. It's generally long-term good news, but it's also worth an evaluation if that does feel like a concern.
And can I ask, is that still happening with current strains of COVID, or was that more in the past than now?
Still happening.
Still happening, Thank you. Any last questions? We have time for one more question. We'll wrap up. No? Well, I just want to thank all of you on behalf of our education partners, Annette, myself, our team, for being here today. And we all just want to wish you happy holidays and a happy new year. And hopefully we'll see you on what date? January the 9th. Thank you, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
A big thank you to our panelists. Thank you. You guys were great. Yeah.